Allen Lund Company, 47 years young and a proud sponsor, wishes OOIDA all the best as you celebrate 50 years.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Mark Redding.
The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration is going to take another look at rest break rules in California and Washington state. But what does that mean? Jamie Jones, Mark Schrimmer, and Scott Thompson get to the bottom of it in another roundtable discussion, along with other trucking news from recent days. Runaway truck ramps save lives, but not all are created equal. A novel concept is being used in Wyoming to bring runaway vehicles to a safe stop. It goes by a few names, but whatever you call it, it's working. Stephanie Harsha of the Wyoming Department of Transportation joins the show to tell us how. And finally, a truck convoy in Indiana tripled its goal of raising more than $17,000 for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Coming up, we'll hear why this organization was chosen and how the generosity of truckers has once again made a difference. But first, the news with Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Mark. Our top story today: the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance's annual Brake Safety Week. It started Sunday across the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. As is the case every year around this time, inspectors will be out in full force performing their regular duties. But as is also the case every year, they'll be honing in on the braking systems of commercial vehicles, with a special focus this year on brake lining and pad violations. Brake Safety Week runs through Saturday, August 26th. During last year's enforcement blitz, CVSA says some 38,000 inspections were conducted, and while more than 13% of those vehicles were placed out of service for critical brake-related violations, that of course means that 87% of those vehicles inspected passed. An agency under the U.S. DOT umbrella is asking for some help as it fine-tunes the way it gets information out to the public. For a while now, the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration has been putting together feedback to come up with a frequently asked questions page. The goal is to improve communication and awareness of the regulations. The agency finalized its first set of questions and answers at the end of last year and has now come up with a second set that was published on the Federal Register on Friday. Most address common concerns regarding hazmat incident reporting, such as how long do I have to submit a written incident report, and must the person who files an incident report keep a copy of that incident report? Before making the list official, the agency wants feedback from stakeholders. A comment period is now open. It runs through September 18th. San Francisco City Attorney is calling for a pause to the city's expansion of autonomous robo-taxis. David Chu filed a motion with the California Public Utilities Commission this week, asking it to temporarily halt the expansion. The city also plans to file for a hearing to discuss the decision, believing the commission didn't fully consider the impact several thousand robo-taxis could have on city streets. It has safety and environmental concerns. Last week, the Public Utilities Commission gave Waymo and Cruise the green light to operate fully autonomous taxis without a human driver, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's despite quite a bit of pushback from the public and first responders who cited numerous safety concerns in their pleas. For more than 60 years now since it first opened, people have had to pay to drive on Michigan's Mackinac Bridge, but that could be changing if a Michigan state lawmaker gets his way. State Rep James Asana has sponsored a bill that would eliminate toll collection on the bridge. The bill currently has 8 co-sponsors. Instead of tolls, the lawmaker says the Mackinac Bridge would be treated like it is a part of the state highway system. His plan doesn't include details on making up the loss in revenue that would cause, since the tolls generate $23 million each year. And that's precisely the concern of critics who point out that the bridge doesn't get any money from the state or the federal government. The Mackinac Bridge Authority says toll removal would result in the bridge never having enough money for proper maintenance. The 5-mile bridge linking the upper and lower peninsulas has collected tolls since it first opened on November 1st, 1957. The Mackinac Bridge Authority estimates that 5 million vehicles cross the bridge each year. A front-runner has emerged in the race to buy up the 169 terminals left behind in the wake of Yellow's demise. Estes Express Line's bid, $1.3 billion. That information came to light during a hearing Thursday in a U.S. bankruptcy court in Delaware. That's where we also learned that Estes does not plan to provide a $230 million loan to Yellow, as was previously discussed. Instead, Yellow's largest shareholder, MFN Partners and Citadel Credit Master Fund, will fork over more than $142 million to tide things over until all of Yellow's outstanding issues are resolved. Fleet Pride keeps on getting bigger. The company announced in a news release that it has acquired Integrity Fleet Services. Texas-based Fleet Pride, which distributes truck and trailer parts, made 12 acquisitions in 2022 and has announced 6 more so far in 2023. Fleet Pride's network includes more than 300 locations, more than 80 of which are service centers. The company also has 5 distribution centers. A Canada-based LTL carrier has broken ground on a $250 million warehouse and office facility in Ontario. Highlight Motor Group recently held a ceremony to commemorate the start of construction on its new facility in Bradford. The company says the sprawling facility will feature 1.1 million square feet of warehousing and office space when it opens, currently slated for summer 2026. The site will also serve as the company's new headquarters. Highlight Motor Carrier has more than 1,100 employees throughout North America. If you're in the market for a new reefer, a now-defunct company might have what you're looking for. Tiger Cool Express is selling off more than 700 late-model refrigerated intermodal containers as it works to settle its debts. Most are 53-foot containers with carrier refrigeration units, and most are located in Chicago. Tiger Cool Express, which specialized in temperature-controlled freight on the Union Pacific and BNSF railroads, folded in June. Werner Enterprises has been selected to haul the 2023 U.S. Capitol Christmas tree. Choose Outdoors, which helps the USDA Forest Service carry out the annual event, said Werner was recommended by Kenworth and chosen based on industry reputation. The process will begin at the Monongahela National Forest in West Virginia in early November. That's when and where this year's 63-foot-tall tree will be harvested. Werner drivers Jesus Davia and Tim Dean will do the honors of transporting it to Washington, D.C. The husband-wife team of Steve and Gina Jones will haul the ornaments and 84 companion trees. A number of public events will take place along the route from West Virginia to the U.S. Capitol, culminating with the big tree lighting ceremony in November. And finally, it's tarantula season in southeastern Colorado and southwest Kansas. Starting this month, thousands of male Texas brown tarantulas will make the trek to find a mate, and that journey often leads them across busy roadways, where drivers have reported driving over so many that they literally crunch underneath their tires. And these aren't tiny spiders. The Texas brown tarantula has a leg span of about 4 to 5 inches. Luckily, experts say they're largely harmless, especially if you're behind the wheel of your semi. So keep on driving, and if you happen to find yourself out of the cab and face-to-face with one, know that they usually strike only if provoked, and their venom is about what you'd find in a bee sting. That's Landline Now News for today. I'm Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Scott. OOIDA will offer its Truck to Success live seminar October 17th through the 19th at the Courtyard by Marriott in Blue Springs, Missouri. The 3-day in-depth training offers step-by-step guidance for truckers considering becoming owner-operators or moving on to their own authority. We'll have a link to where you can sign up to take the course at our website, landlinenow.com. If you'd like to join OOIDA, you can do it at a discount. Just call the membership department during business hours at 816-229-5791. You can join the association or renew your membership for 2 years for $50, a $40 discount. Next, Jamie Jones, Mark Schremer, and Scott Thompson discuss the latest on meal and rest breaks in 2 states. We'll hear about a unique runaway truck ramp from Stephanie Harsha of the Wyoming Department of Transportation, and Ashley Blackford reports on a convoy in Indiana benefiting a good cause. We'll be back in just a moment with more news and information. Please stay with us. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Forget miss accuracy, weigh your truck on a cat scale.
When you weigh on a cat scale, you get a no excuses guarantee. You can now save time weighing by using your smartphone. Find out more at weightmytruck.com.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com, because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
And we're back, and we're joined by two familiar faces here in Studio A to round up and analyze the biggest headlines in trucking right now, while also looking ahead to what's to come. And if you need rounding up and analyzing done, you'd be hard-pressed to find two people better suited. Jamie Jones and Mark Schrimmer of Landline Magazine. Good to see you.
Hey, It's good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us back.
We're going to get into this latest move out of FMCSA this week. It's related to two separate decisions made years ago. And this one, we were talking about it just a few moments ago, gets complicated real fast. So I want to make sure we're setting the stage properly here. We're talking about California and Washington State, which each had instituted meal and rest break rules that were stricter, right, than federal regulations. Yeah. FMCSA back in the day nixed those plans. Now they're reconsidering. Did I get that right, Mark? Let's start there.
No, I think for the most part you did. You know, back in 2018, ATA petitioned the agency, for that very reason, saying that this should be preempted by federal law to keep with interstate commerce, to avoid problems. FMCSA agreed with that. Then there was a similar situation in Washington because they had similar laws that took us to California. Same deal. And this also went through from, I think, in different phases. There was a property carrying phase, and then there was a passenger carrying. And in both of them, they decided that it was preempt. The Teamsters actually took this to the Ninth Circuit on the California one and ended up losing. They sided with FMCSA at that time. But now basically the agency is looking back at this and saying, okay, we're going to put this out there. And I think through like November 13th, mid-November, they're saying, hey, if you have a reason to petition this, if you have safety concerns, you have things to look at this, we will review under that time to see whether or not there's a possible waiver from this preemption.
Yeah, see? Not complicated at all. Yeah, so we're going back years, obviously, when we're talking about all of this, and we're talking about two separate states. We're talking about FMCSA, lots of moving parts here. We're also, Jamie, talking about intrastate versus interstate, and then the implications that this could have on down the line, and it gets pretty messy.
Well, and we're just at the beginning stage of messy now that,
Put that on a coffee mug. I like that.
In reality, because now you're going to have these individual petitions for waivers. They're all going to have different reasons. They're going to have different moving parts, different ways they might work, how they're going to structure their meal and rest breaks or whatever. And that's all well and good, but the devil's going to be in the details. And how does that actually, against federal law, work for intrastate carriers carriers carrying interstate commerce? It's just there's going to be a lot of legal wrangling on this. And it's not that the idea isn't great to allow truck drivers to rest when they need to have meal breaks, to have all those things. It's just, are we going to create a patchwork with a bunch of states doing things wildly different, and that's going to be complicated in that respect?
Very complicated, yeah.
So it's one of those things that the concept is genuine, and I appreciate the fact that the agency is trying to look at it from a safety perspective and what they can do to give drivers that flexibility to get rest. But it's just going to be complicated.
Well, and that's a question that I have as well that you raised there, I think, is that we have California and Washington State that did try to implement stricter rules, right, for this. Are we going to see states out there that try to relax the rules even beyond federal regulations? Is that even a possibility in all of this? Or
part of what was going on with the California in particular, there was money attached to those breaks. So they got paid during those breaks. And that was a big sticking point for, you guessed it, the big motor carriers. If the wheels aren't turning, they don't want to pay you. Sure. So that was one of the sticking points, and that could come back into play. But, we have a different appetite in Congress and things like that right now because we do have the overtime bill, the trying to remove the overtime exemption for truck drivers. So there's an appetite in Congress now that time is time to be paid. So we're in a different era politically with Congress, with the congressional makeup the way it is. So things are just going to be different this time around. And each one is going to have to be evaluated on its merits.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. November 13th, you mentioned, is the deadline for getting those petitions in. I imagine we'll see those, over the course of the next couple months, and they should give us some hints as to where this may be headed.
Yeah, and I think as they come through, there will be opportunities to comment on those individual petitions for waivers, and so it'll be interesting to see what the first one is.
On to another topic here, sticking, though, with FMCSA, which was supposed to release something, supposed to emphasize that, about broker transparency earlier this summer. That obviously didn't happen, as we chuckle there.
Summer's not over.
We're still, that is true.
Summer's not over.
There you go. See, Jamie bringing the sunshine to this conversation. OOIDA, we've talked about this, has been on the forefront of this issue for a long time, shouting that more broker transparency is needed, especially these days with all the fraud that we're seeing out there with brokers. The association this week gently nudging FMCSA, I suppose we could say, in a letter, asking them to provide an update essentially on this. But I mean, the bottom line here is we're still waiting, Mark.
Yeah, no, and I think beyond a gentle nudge, I would say persistent. I mean, because
persistent nudge.
OIDA has talked about this issue for years and years and years, but they are the ones who officially petitioned the agency back in May of 2020. Then I think in September 2022 had a follow-up and said, hey, what's happening with our petition? And then in March of this year, did another follow-up letter saying, hey, what's happening with our petition? Right after that is when FMCSA actually announced that they had granted the petition and were going to initiate a rulemaking. And if you remember at Matt's in Louisville this past year, there was a kind of listening session, and that's what kind of took the whole listening session. Was about broker transparency, and so many drivers talking about the issues that they've had and concerns on this topic. Now, then there was a spring unified regulatory agenda that was released that said
just a big old list of stuff they're going to do. Let's get down to brass tacks.
Sure. Yeah. and basically, so it said this was coming in June. Here we are in mid-August. It's still not. So FMCSA, like I said, persistent. Another letter saying, hey, what's going on with this? And it was really just kind of explaining all the time that you're waiting around to do something, more drivers, more motor carriers are being hurt by this.
Yeah.
So, there's no more time to waste is basically, the message that I took from the letter this week.
And when you're in I hate to use the R word, but it does feel recessionary right now. Anytime freight rates are depressed and costs are high and things like that, we see the fraud come out like crazy on the broker side of things. And we're seeing that. And we're having OOIDA is fielding so many calls from members who are being preyed upon by these frauds and these scams. And if they had the tools of transparency, they would be able to avoid so much of this. But that's why the agency has got to get moving on it.
Yeah.
And we're just looking at all these other tactics that we're trying to help people avoid this fraud, but the agency has got to get the Wild West of brokers under control.
And it's not that big of an ask when you look back at really what this petition is. It's basically asking them to enforce a regulation that's already on the books, to be able to stop loopholes from brokers being able to get around the current regulation. And so it'll be really interesting to see once we see the proposal, what is FMCSA actually going to do? They say they're going to address this, but how are they going to address it?
Yeah, and I think they are. And as you mentioned there, FMCSA I think does recognize this as a real problem. Not just because people are getting taken to the cleaners, but it's a safety issue. It's a retention issue, which is something that they've been preaching over and over again over recent months.
Yeah, you run people out of business, you're going to lose good drivers out of the industry.
Exactly. And, I talked to Administrator Robin Hutchison a few months ago, and she made that clear as well, that she recognizes this as being an issue. I wonder how much this is, dotting I's and crossing T's and making sure that everything is kind of as
inevitably
it should be.
It has to be that process because, I mean, the broker industry could turn around and sue if they come out with a regulation that they feel is arbitrary and capricious, which is a legal term for junk. Anyway, but
put that on a coffee mug too.
I guess I'm in for the quips today. Anyway, but no, I mean, that's what, and it could be taking more time because they need to watch for those pitfalls that you can have in the regulatory process.
Yeah, and to be fair, so many of these, if you pay attention to those agenda, that they'll say this is coming in April and it's several months later. I mean, it's not uncommon for them to not meet those deadlines.
Goals.
Yeah, goals is better. Yeah.
Junk. No, that's a different thing. Sorry.
Capricious.
There you go. Let's finish up real quick here. We've got a few minutes. I want to talk about FMCSA and NHTSA's proposed mandate of automatic emergency braking systems in heavy trucks. The comment period still open. It's going to stay that way through September 5th. Mark, you've been combing through these comments. It's what you do in your spare time. You love it. You came across a good one recently, and you followed up on it. Just tell us what that was about.
Yeah, so I have a truck driver named Carrie Moore. She's been a truck driver for about 10 years, and I was reading through her comment, and she was talking basically about that she had a near crash she had this technology. So most of the time that she's been a driver, she has been in trucks that did not have this technology. For about a year and a half time, she was with a company that had a truck that had automatic emergency braking system, that lane assist, that type of stuff.
All the wizardry.
Yeah.
All the junk. Sorry. I keep going back to that word.
And so, I read the comment and actually wrote a little bit about it on landline.media, plug.
Shameless plug.
But I also followed up and called Carrie, and it was she really got emotional revisiting and talking about this because this technology put her in a position where she could have been in a really terrible crash. So it's winter in Michigan around midnight. She's driving along and she's going around. She said not really that dramatic of a curve, kind of an easy curve. But this is the type of stuff that when this technology doesn't work, that happens, that it picked up the guardrail and thought that the truck was going to run into the guardrail. So think of icy conditions, dark night. It just apparently slams on the brakes. It causes her to basically, as she put it, jackknife, and she's going to a median, and she had to act fast to correct and not crash. She said if there had been any other cars around her, there would have been a very terrible crash that would have occurred. And as she was retelling this moment, and I felt bad, asking her to revisit it, but it is so important that the agency and, regulators hear these type of stories.
Yeah, we characterized it as a good comment. I mean, it's a bad situation.
A great lesson in how to comment on these things.
That's exactly, this is textbook what the agency needs to hear.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 100%. And the fact that she could upload dash cam video with that to prove your point. I mean, she sent another one in where a car lost control in front of her and the system did not engage because it was too close to it. So, I mean, we have this proof. We have the technology out there to show the agency this is what's happening. So it's just textbook great comment.
Yeah, and it's one thing to say I don't like this technology, it doesn't work, but if you can tell that real world story of that type of event that happened and you can relay that, it's really powerful.
Incredibly.
Absolutely. Shameless plug, landline.media. You can check out Mark's story there on this. But yeah, a great lesson in how to comment with these issues that are so important. If you have video, even better to relay those concerns out there for sure. Landline.media, you can check out Mark and Jamie's work there and in every issue of Landline Magazine. Always good to see you. We'll see you next time.
Sure, thanks, Scott.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
We're going to take a quick break, but stick around because Landline Now is back after this.
You trust PrePass for more bypasses? Now let PrePass help with tolls. PrePass toll service means lower cost, one invoice for all tolls, and fewer violations. Created by truckers for truckers. Call 877-878-5970 or go to prepass.com.
Attention all truckers, Dean Michael, the tax doctor here. I want to talk to you about those dreaded tax problems. I know you want to keep on trucking and not even think about them, but let's face it, they're not going away all on their own. You need professional help. I've been helping truckers put their tax problems in the rearview mirror for years. I can help you too. Call me now for a free consultation at 888-557-4020 or go to mytaxhelpmd.com. It's like I always say, keep your eyes on the road, I'll keep mine on the IRS. 888-557-4020.
Landline now, welcome back. We told you recently about a relatively new system in Wyoming that's designed to stop runaway trucks and other vehicles on Teton Pass. That system was put into effect twice in August. The first case involving an overweight semi who used the so-called truck arrestor system to avert disaster. 4Net slowed that runaway truck down, and then a week later it happened again, this time with a pickup truck which had a trailer attached. The good news in both of these cases, nobody died and nobody was even injured, which is precisely why the truck arrestor system was put in place several years ago. We wanted to learn more about it, so we reached out to the Wyoming Department of Transportation for more information, and Stephanie Harsha was quick to respond.
I'm the Public Involvement Specialist for WYDOT for District 3, which encompasses Teton County.
The Wyoming truck arrestor system isn't the first of its kind in the nation, but it just might be one of the busiest, as Harsha explains over the course of our conversation. First off, thanks for speaking with us. We appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to ask you off the top here, what do you call this system? Except I've seen several names for it, and I'm wondering what the official name is and maybe what some of the other names are.
So we've been calling it a vehicle arrestor system because it does accommodate all sorts of vehicles to stop with, when their brakes are not working. But it has been called a truck arrestor and also a CatchNet. CatchNet is, I think, the company that initially piloted this kind of technology for this use. So a lot of people still call it a CatchNet system. But as for the Wyoming Department of Transportation, we call it a vehicle arrestor system.
Gotcha. And I mean, just reading about it, the system is, it's ingenious. It's very smart. In simple terms, I suppose, can you explain exactly how the system works?
Yeah, absolutely. It is an amazing system, and I think a lot of people, the way it was told to us is this technology really comes from catching planes on aircraft carriers, which is really interesting to me. And basically what it is, it's a system of nets and tapes and canisters in two retaining walls, kind of guiding a vehicle into what would be kind of like a corridor. And then each net grabs basically the front of a vehicle. And as that vehicle moves through that corridor, those tapes expand, and hence the name CatchNet. It kind of, those nets catch a vehicle and slow it down with the expansion of the tapes.
And I mean, obviously, this came, like most inventions, out of necessity. Talk a little bit about, the process for getting this installed. Obviously, there was a need there, right, on Teton Pass with runaway trucks. And I imagine that was a conversation, and with all conversations, they kind of lead from one thing to another. Can you talk about the origins of this and explain, why it was needed and how that process kind of played out?
Sure. Well, the arrestor on Teton Pass isn't actually the first arrestor that we've had in Wyoming. It was initially piloted on US 14 near Buffalo, where they were having an issue with overweight trucks, basically crashing, losing their brakes and crashing. So they did find this technology. They built that arrestor over on US 14, and it was working really well for them over there. The issue that we really were seeing on Teton Pass, obviously, besides the steep grades and the curves on the roadway, is that the only access to runaway truck ramp are those stand ramps that go up the mountain, were across opposing traffic. So you'd have a truck that would lose its brakes or be unable to stop in some way, and it would have to cross over oncoming traffic to access that ramp. So that's an issue we were running into because they were causing crashes and accidents trying to access that ramp. In addition to that, that roadway, it's a 2-lane highway over Teton Pass, is one of the busiest 2-lane highways in our state. So that just compounded the problem of trucks having to cross over oncoming traffic to access that. So we started looking at solutions maybe that we could provide to those drivers that would be on the same side of traffic so they wouldn't be crossing over. So we started looking at that arrestor system.
Yeah, and obviously it's working for you. How long ago was that, or how long has it been in effect there?
So we opened that first arrestor system in March of 2017 on Teton Pass, and it was used 3 times within the first 6 months it was open. So it has been utilized quite a lot since then. I'd have to get those numbers, but and it's utilized. I think what makes it a little different than the arrestor that we have near Buffalo is that this particular arrestor gets utilized by a variety of traffic. So not only are tractor-trailer type vehicles using it, but we've had RVs use it. We've had pickups carrying flatbed trailers use it. So it does accommodate all sorts of vehicles, and a lot of different types of vehicles are utilizing it.
And walk me through, I have not driven up there, so kind of walk me through, if you could, what that looks like. So, I'm on Teton Pass. I'm having an issue. My brakes aren't working. I imagine I'm going to see signs. I'm going to see some sort of, warning that option is there. What does that look like if I'm actually traveling there and having problems?
So we do have a couple static signs warning drivers that if they need it to utilize that arrestor system, and then we have a large overhanging sign right before it as well. And then an open sign. There's actually a green open. And an issue we were running to in the past is it is a unusual and uncommon type of arrestor system. I mean, people aren't used to seeing those quite yet. They're used to seeing those mountain ramps, so they're not used to seeing it. And we had some issues with people not wanting to take it because of the catch net system across there. It looks like a barrier, so it almost looks closed, like you're not supposed to drive into that. So we did a lot of work to kind of promote with the open sign, a lot of green, to allow motorists to know that is what it's for. It is open, and you should drive right into those nets.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because that would be that would be terrifying, right? I mean, if you're having problems and you see that, and it seems like that's where I should go, but it does, as you said there, look kind of like a barrier. You're thinking, oh my gosh, am I making the right decision here? But clearly, you've evolved this over the years to make it very clear that this is what people should be doing. If something goes horribly wrong, that this is going to potentially and probably save your life, right?
Absolutely. It is highly effective, more effective than the ramps that we've utilized in the past. And I think part of that is there's limited damage to the vehicle. There's hardly any injuries that are incurred from taking or using the ramp. I can't think of anyone who's had any serious injury utilizing the arrestor system. Most people that have used it in the past actually back their vehicle out and drive it the rest of the way after they've had someone come and look at it. So, I mean, your vehicle's still functional after you pull it out of the net. There is some front end damage that we've seen to trucks and vehicles that enter the arrestor, but for the most part, it'll save your life. I mean, I would rather have a little bit of front end damage than take my chances without my brakes down one of the steepest mountain passes in Wyoming. So
yeah, no kidding. And I was going to ask you, play the hypothetical game a little bit. If these arrestor systems weren't there, and they weren't there for a very long time, the result would be, in many cases, a lot more deaths, right? I imagine this thing has literally saved lives over the past, 5 or 6 years since it's been there, right?
Yeah, we've had it. It's been used quite a bit, and it's hard to speculate on whether or not someone would have lost their life, but we do know that prior to its opening, we believe we had 3 fatalities. I'd have to look up that, but there were fatalities prior from vehicles crashing. And I think the biggest thing that the Department of Transportation was concerned about, obviously we're concerned about crashes and fatalities, but there's also a very small community at the base of Teton Pass, and there's a lot of foot traffic, there's a lot of bicycle traffic, and there's a couple businesses right there. And so if a vehicle who lost its brakes was able to even navigate all the way to the bottom, there's a very good chance that they would crash at the bottom and cause more damage to vehicles, as well as run the risk of hurting someone else. So that's something that we couldn't risk. And it does look like we've had from 2002 to 2012, so the information is slightly outdated. There were 17 crashes, 12 injuries, and 2 fatalities from those who lost their brakes on the path.
Yeah, like I said, literally saving lives, which is great. I mean, it's a great system. I'm just reading up on it. It's really incredible, which leads me to ask whether there are any plans to expand this program. Are there any thoughts of maybe using it in different parts of the state, or is that even a necessity, I guess, at this point?
When I think the first one was built in Buffalo, it was a pretty uncommon technology. I think there was only a handful of arrestor systems anywhere in North America. Since then, since the one that's been built in 2017, there's many more in the Mountain West area as well as North America. I believe there's one just in Utah, northern Utah. I am unaware of any plans to build an arrestor system on any other mountain passes in Wyoming, but the Department of Transportation is reviewing and looking at building a second arrestor system further down Teton Pass. So it would be closer to the community of Wilson. That location hasn't been determined, and we don't have those plans in our transportation improvement, basically lines out projects for the next 7 years. We don't have that in there yet, but they are investigating the possibility of building a second arrestor system on Teton Pass.
Yeah, it's a really cool example of the good that technology can do when you hear a story like this. And again, just recently this month, right, we had 2 instances of the arrestor system going into effect, essentially. The first time, and then the next day it was back up and running again, and then a week later it happened again. So it's really cool to see that this is actually, helping to save lives there and making sure that people are getting home when things could go very, very wrong in a lot of these cases. Stephanie, is there anything I forgot to ask you, or anything you maybe want to add here at the end?
We're very happy with the way the system is functioning. The last few times it's been utilized, it's functioning exactly the way it's supposed to. We did make some modifications in the past to accommodate more types of vehicles. Initially, that arrestor system was kind of tailored to tractor trailers, and we've kind of built a system now that can accommodate any vehicle entering it, which has been invaluable in Teton County just due to the different types of vehicles that are traveling over that pass, everything from your RV commuter to your just person in a sedan going to work to our tractor trailers. So we have made some modifications. It's working great, and we're very, very happy with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Stephanie, thanks so much for talking with us. We appreciate it, and I'm sure people out there will appreciate, learning more about this because, as I said, it's a really cool system and a cool example of technology making a big difference. And thanks for sharing the story with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Our thanks once again to Stephanie Harsha of the Wyoming DOT. She mentioned a truck arrestor system near Buffalo a few times there, and we should point out that that's Buffalo, Wyoming she's talking about. That runaway ramp can be found and used on US 16, although it's currently closed while crews do some work on it. The system is actually getting an upgrade, meaning it should work even better due to advancements in the cable design system. That Buffalo ramp, like the one on Teton Pass, has been used by motorists of all kinds numerous times throughout the years, but highlighting the importance of public awareness, it has to be used to work. About a year ago now, a truck driver unfamiliar with the region died after his truck lost control and crashed. An investigation later found that he drove right past the truck arrestor system just moments before the tragedy. Work on the Buffalo ramp is set to be done by the end of September. We've got to take a short break, but don't go anywhere. We've got more Landline Now on the other side, so stick around.
Firestone tires are for more of everything. More miles for every tire dollar, and more confidence in your fleet. At Firestone, we help fleets save with dependable value. Find your local Firestone dealer today at firestonetire.com/dealer.
Ready to make more money? Use a better load board. For a limited time, get 50% off Truckstop Loadboard Pro. Just go to truckstop.com/go and enter promo code READY2023 when you purchase Loadboard Pro.
It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
Landline Now, welcome back. A recent truck convoy in southern Indiana raised $53,000 for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Alfred Sellers is president of the Southern Indiana Truck Convoy. He joins me now. Alfred, can you tell me what the event entailed and how things went?
Oh, we had our convoy on Saturday, August the 5th. It was about 3 months of work by a group of great people, and we had 48 trucks entered this year. We had one on a lowboy trailer. It was a classic truck that wasn't on the road or licensed, so they put it on lowboy and brought it out, so technically 49. Our group did an amazing job going out and getting sponsorships, donations for our silent auction. We had T-shirts, activities for the kids, train rides, working on getting food vendors set up for to feed the people and everything. And we had a really good turnout. The community came out and supported us real good.
And one of your goals, this is only the second year you've done this, right?
Correct. This is our second year.
And last year you raised $17,000. What did you raise this year?
This year we will be donating $53,000. We had a epic bidding war to get our first place banner to lead the convoy through. We had two of our local trucking companies just went tooth to toenail, and if it wasn't for them, I don't think it would have been that good. But the support of our community was amazing.
And I mean, that's quite a jump from one year to the next.
Yes, it just raised the bar that much higher to try to do better next year.
And what was kind of the you started this convoy, correct?
Myself and some co-drivers I work with, we all got together and decided to do one ourselves from ones we participated in the past, and said, why don't we have one in our area? And we talked about it for a long time and finally decided to do it.
Did you ever expect it to be as successful as, I mean, last year was good, but this year even better?
Yeah, this year I'm still pretty much speechless over how this year turned out. It was such a large number. I never even dreamed it would get that big.
What will the money go towards?
The money will go towards a donation to Make-A-Wish. Our chapter is in Cincinnati, Ohio, so they cover being our location, Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana. So it'll go to children and families in that general vicinity.
And why did you choose Make-A-Wish?
Make-A-Wish is a really great organization. My oldest daughter received a wish back in the late 90s, and she has lots and lots of major medical issues. And that week we were out on it, it was just, you got to forget about your worries and woes, and they treat the kids so great, and all their sponsors and donors to the people, the companies that support Make-A-Wish. They're just amazing.
And what was her wish? Can you kind of talk to me a little bit more about her?
Yeah, she was about 4 years old, and she went to Disney World down in Florida, or Disneyland. I can't remember which one it was. But we went to Orlando, and we spent a week down there, and Make-A-Wish covered everything. We weren't able to fly, so they rent us a handicap accessible way because she was in a wheelchair and on a ventilator, and paid for all of our gas and hotel rooms all the way down there till we got to Make-A-Wish land, and it was a great experience.
And what did that mean, during that time, like you said, to have that time away and for her to be able to have this dream come true?
It's kind of hard to describe because it's been so long ago, but it was a relaxing, carefree thing. We forgot about the worries and woes of all the illnesses of our daughter, and it was just, she enjoyed herself, and she got to be the star of attention for a while.
How did it feel this year, and last year, to be making donations to this organization, knowing that you're giving back and giving that experience to another family?
It feels good. I've always been into some sort of charity work, and most of my people on the committee and everything are big into charity works, and it just feels good to be able to give back to somebody who is in need and who could use a break in life, because life knocks so many people down.
And can you kind of walk me through how did the day of events, what kind of things happened?
our team showed up about 6 o'clock that morning at the Ripley County Fairgrounds in Osgood, Indiana. Started setting everything up and getting everything finalized where we wanted stuff placed and organized all the trucks and everything that came in. We had a few come in early that overnight while we were taking our nap beforehand and getting them positioned where we wanted bobtails versus the combinations parked and getting our food vendors set up. And then people just started coming in, and it was just, we went from about 8 o'clock till when we released our brakes at 1 o'clock and did the convoy. And it was just a good time had by all. We had food, entertainment for the kids, live band.
Do you know how many people participated?
There was 48 trucks driving in it, and we had probably 350 people from the public came out and supported us and listened to the music and had food and supported our silent auction. And it was a good time had by all.
Did you have a goal set of how much you wanted to raise for Make-A-Wish?
Just more than we donated last year, but I never in our dreams thought that we would triple what we did last year. So that was rather shocking that the bids went that high for the placement of the trucks, because we auctioned off the first 3 places, and the battle for the first place truck was just made me speechless.
And can you talk to me more about that, about the generosity of truck drivers? Just talk to me more about that and what you witnessed.
I've been in the trucking industry for 25 plus years, grew up around trucks in a rural community. My brother had them, and I'd see truck drivers, talk to them, and go to truck stops. There's always a balloon hanging for CMN or St. Christopher's Fund. And somebody's always donating to somebody. And truck drivers are just giving because we're not home enough to really get involved in community activities and stuff a whole lot because we stay out on the road so much. And this is one way for their drivers to give back to their community.
And you had some truck awards, right?
Yeah, we had awards for the oldest working truck. We had a sharp-looking cab over Peterbilt a guy brought. It was a 1993 model. Our oldest truck that was in it was the classic, I think it was a 62 or 63 cab over Freightliner. We let the drivers fill out a card of which one they thought was the nicest looking truck, and they got an award for that. And then a driver that traveled the furthest, there's one that came in who works for one of our local companies from Fontana, California. So he was like 2,800 miles to come out to participate in it. So there wasn't much of a competition on that one.
Any plans for next year?
At the moment, we don't have a whole lot other than I think we're going to keep it the first weekend in August. We're having a meeting to just kind of go over what all transpired 2 weeks ago and see what all new ideas and where we can make adjustments and try to make it better for next year.
And how nice is it to be able to kind of all come together and get away from the daily grind of work and kind of hang out with other truckers?
Oh, it's fun. It's nerve-wracking because everybody involved in the group is involved in trucking, whether we're a driver or they work in the logistics in the office somewhere for a company. And so we all got a good understanding of the trucking, and it's just mind-boggling of all the different ideas and thoughts and things that need to be taken care of, and the routes and getting traffic control organized and going out and trying to get sponsors and donations for our auction and everything. It's just a lot of work. But at the day of the event, when it's all said and done, and you see everybody smiling, people saying, "Thank you for doing this. This is great. I'm coming back next year and I'm bringing friends." At the end of the day, it makes you feel good. You're tired, but you feel good about the work that you did to get to where you're at.
Do you know what your goal will be next year to raise?
I'd like to say more than we did this year, but that's
you never
a
know.
Pretty lofty goal. Yeah, never know, but if we can do it, I hope we can do it. I want to ask everybody that came to bring one new friend next year, and then that way we can hopefully double the amount of trucks we have. I'd just like to thank all the drivers that came out and participated in something like this from the tri-state area, Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. And if you see something like this or hear about something like this, it's fun. You get to relax with other drivers, meet new people, help support a great cause.
That was Alfred Sellers talking about the Southern Indiana Truck Convoy. For more information, you can visit sitconvoy.org. For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford. That's our show for today. Thank you for tuning in, and be sure to join us again tomorrow.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife.
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing,
my kids,
chrome, and I am
a professional truck driver.
And together we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us! Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.